I'm speaking with Peter Singer, who is the director of the 21st Century Defense Initiative and a senior fellow in foreign policy at Brookings. Peter Singer's research focuses on three core issues: the future of war, current U.S. defense needs, and future priorities, and the future of the U.S. defense system. His book, Corporate Warriors, The Rise of the Privatized Military Industry, won the 2004 Edward Said Book Award. His next book, Children at War, won the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Memorial Book of the Year. And last year he published Wired for War, The Robotics Revolution and Conflict in the 21st Century. Foreign Policy magazine named him as one of the top 100 global thinkers of 2009. And yesterday, Peter Singer, you testified before the Government Oversight and Reform Committee, their subcommittee on national security. Some of the questions that the chairman asked were kind of interesting about the Geneva Convention applying to unmanned warfare, whether an official declaration of war is authorized when you're dealing with unmanned weapons. What was the most interesting thing that you thought came up?
Well, I think the most interesting was the fact that it was a little bit of a historic first. This hearing wasn't one of those gotcha hearings that Congress often does. It was more of a catch-up hearing, and that the U.S. has gone from using a handful of drones, unmanned aerial systems, pilotless planes, whatever you want to call them, and just over a couple of years, and now we have over 7,000, and yet Congress hadn't held a single hearing on it. And so they were very much focused on all the variety of uses, most especially in the airstrikes into Pakistan that are happening, and yet Congress hasn't weighed in. So it was almost like an educational hearing. You could describe it in a certain way.
So clearly legal, moral, military, political issues came up. Let's start with the legal one. In terms of the provision against assassination, how does the drones get around that, since they appear to be the preferred weapon of assassination in our arsenal?
Well, this is one of the core questions that a number of us were testifying on, is that while most of the use of the unmanned systems has been by the U.S. military, perhaps the most controversial part of it has been by the CIA, and that we've had over 119 airstrikes into Pakistan over the last couple of years that some people would describe as assassination, other people would use the military terminology of high-value targeting, whatever you want to call it. But what was interesting to me, and what I was testifying on, is the fact that this is, by any other measure, the equivalent of a war. It's about 3 times the number of airstrikes we did into the opening round of the Kosovo War, but we don't view it as a war. And the real question here was, is it because Congress hasn't weighed in either to support it or to oppose it? Is it because it's being run by the CIA, not by the military, and so therefore it doesn't fall under the same authorization? Or is it just the fact that we're using robotics, and so we don't view it in the same way?
But the CIA, of course, gets a lot of attention and a lot of blame, but they actually do have fairly long-standing oversight over the CIA. However, there is no oversight over JSOC, as far as I know. They're at war, and they've got all kinds of teams out there doing all kinds of stuff that we don't know about. And so I'm curious as to know why the CIA is the one that gets the attention in terms of their use of drones, and the military doesn't.
Well, I think it's the case, at least when we're talking about the unmanned aerial systems. I mean, some of the issues with JSOC maybe go a little bit wider, but at least within our Pakistan strategy, we know when it's a military operation, there's a distinct chain of command. There's authorities that are followed. There are, and this is, for my interest, maybe the most important, people who are experienced in military affairs making decisions, for example, over things like collateral damage. When it's authorized by a JAG officer, that's something that they've been weighing and learning about their entire career. The CIA, by comparison, its role is in the intelligence and gathering and analytic world, but also it's an agency that's headed by civilian political appointees. The general counsels within it, do their job, we can argue very well or very poorly, that's different people's perspective. But the simple reality is they're not someone who's spent their career as a lawyer focusing on things like, how do I weigh the collateral damage of an airstrike? And yet, right now, it's not the military lawyers who are the one making these calculations, making these decisions. It's not the generals. The one pure air war campaign that we're fighting right now in Pakistan isn't being fought by the U.S. Air Force. It's being fought by the CIA. And I think that was the concern. And one of the other witnesses at the panel put it this way, which is, we don't know the legality of it because right now we're at the stage of simply denying that it even happens. so there's been no public saying this is the law that we believe authorizes these actions. Rather, we sort of, claim that they're not happening, yet everybody knows that they are. And so in a sense, we're reaping the bad consequences of them in the overall war of ideas out there.
Well, clearly the moral and ethical issues come up, and it may be an explanation for some of the most vociferous critics of the war in Afghanistan and in Iraq single out the drones with particular disgust. And I've often wondered why they engender such fury when the overall military footprint is so much larger and the collateral damage from the overall military footprint is so much larger. And the drone attacks, while they raise obviously very, very serious questions, seem to be much more limited in their scope. So what is it that you think, Peter Singer, that upsets people so much about this? And that's not to say that these people are not legitimately upset and have legitimate reason to be upset.
This is one of the other areas that we talked about, and I think looking at just the CIA action in Pakistan sort of misses the overall trend that's happening here. I mean, this is an introduction of a new weapon that's along the lines of the introduction of gunpowder or the introduction of the atomic bomb. It has that magnitude of consequences and ripple effects, on everything from our politics to our laws to our commerce. And what was interesting is that in the research for my book, the biggest concern that was expressed, and it's sort of unique to robotics, is the idea of it seducing us into war, the vision that it makes war costless, at least within our perceptions, and therefore induces us to engage in war more often. And what was remarkable is I remember that point being raised when I would ask people, open-ended, just what are some of your concerns about this technology? That point was one that was made by everything from human rights activists at organizations like Human Rights Watch to U.S. Special Operations officers. And, as I joke, it was the same point being made by those whose job it is to try and shut down Guantanamo and those whose job it is to try and catch people to put in Guantanamo. Both of them, with these very different agendas, were still concerned about the very same thing, the idea that robotics may make war at least viewed in the short term as costless and induce us to go into more wars, and then you have much bigger long-term consequences of that. And I think that was part of the concern of Congress here, is that we're taking a great deal of actions, but it's something that the legislative branch just simply hasn't weighed in on in any shape or form.